The Batgirl movie has been canceled. In today's video, we're going to be diving into everything centering around this. Why did Warner Brothers cancel it? What is going on over there? As well as a little bit of tidbits, because I actually know someone who has seen the movie. So we're going to talk a little bit about the plot. We're going to talk about a little bit about the reaction, some other reactions I've talked about with other people. And in today's video, this is going to be a deep dive into why Batgirl was canceled, and honestly, why I really feel like it should not have been. Starting with everything, what is the Batgirl movie for people who don't know? This was supposed to be a direct-to-streaming movie to HBO Max. It originally cost $70 million, but after COVID and everything that had gone up, the budget went up to $90 million, which is one of the big reasons why the movie was canceled. But this is the origin story of Batgirl, who Leslie Grace, who did an amazing job in the Heights, was going to be portraying her, and we're going to get a Latina Batgirl. How awesome is that? Michael Keaton would be returning to the role of Batman, especially because we know he's going to be in The Flash. We know some changes are going to be in there. J.K. Simmons was going to be Commissioner Gordon. This was going to be directed by the Bad Boys for Life directors who also just did Miss Marvel. As well, Brendan Fraser was going to play the villain, Firefly. Now, all these things, initially announced for HBO Max, but then a theatrical run was also being considered. Neither is happening. And while the test audience was not terrible, they weren't great, and it didn't instill confidence in Warner Brothers Discovery, which now has ramped up cost-cutting efforts following the merger with Discovery with Warner Brothers. Little has been really much announced with the plot, but we will talk a little bit about that. But overall, the reason that Batgirl was canceled was just due to the fact that they're just cutting cost. Yeah, it costs $90 million, but we're going to have to probably put another $20, $30 million into this to just market it and get some feedback onto there. Would it do good theatrically? Personally, for me, what do I think? Yeah, I think if you were to put this theatrically, it would easily probably at least gross and make even and break even. But do they need to go back and do reshoots? Do they need to go back and fix things? What is going on in here? It seems like the budget was just getting a little bit too high, and they're looking at these DC theatrical movies to all be big theatrical experiences like these blockbusters that the MCU has been giving us. And I sadly think that's a little bit disappointing, because I think Batgirl would have been nice to kind of get a smaller, low-scale, what is going on in the DC world, specifically with Michael Keaton's Batman, but as well as Batgirl. And that was the character I was more interested in, is because Barbara Gordon, for me, is a very fantastic character in the comic books that I don't think has gotten her light inside the movies yet. And honestly, of lately, I just don't think she's been given that love, so I was hoping that this was going to be it, and I honestly think it would have been. Before we start talking about what I think is going to be happening with Leslie Grace's Batgirl in the future, will we ever see her again? Will we still see Michael Keaton in the future as Batman? We'll talk about that soon. I want to dive into the plot of this, because my friend who actually got to see it told me a little bit about the movie, as well as his review on the film. So let's dive into that now. Batgirl movie opens up with a flashback of Commissioner Gordon and his daughter, Barbara, going on a stakeout of sorts. We are informed Barbara's mother died somehow, but we do not know how yet. Now, this opening sequence actually gives us a little bit of detail, apparently, to why she wants to become Batgirl, and why, in a sense, she feels so inspired by Michael Keaton's Batman, which is very crucial. And I think there are some little bit of comic book origins that feel relatable in there. And one of the big keywords that my friend put into this film about what the movie felt like was that this felt like Miss Marvel, which is a series that I really liked, but he was not the biggest fan of. He said the movie felt a little bit cheesy at times, while even feeling a little bit darker, but the dialogue was definitely cheesy for the most part. And again, the story does feel very Miss Marvel. She's inspired by the Batman. She sees him in action. She wants to become that person. And in fact, she becomes Batgirl by dressing up as Batman at a Halloween party. Now, this Halloween party apparently is hosted at Michael Keaton's Batman's house, or may I say Bruce Wayne. And in this entire thing, she ends up stopping some criminals, becoming Batgirl, and then she's a trained fighter, and that's all we really see. We don't really get to see too much training, apparently, but one of the big things that he did heavily emphasize in here was Brendan Fraser as the bad guy Firefly is awesome. And I think it's very disappointing that we will not be able to see Brendan Fraser's Firefly. I think that would have been one of the coolest, interesting aspects of here, because in a sense, we're starting to get this Fraser renaissance where we're seeing him in the next Martin Scorsese movie. He might be even nominated for an Oscar next year within David Aronofsky's movie, and he was supposed to be Firefly. We needed this. And it looks like they were actually very much going to closely tie into what Firefly's origins were, and that this movie was going to be heavily based off the comic books and very much inspired in some ways, not taking cheap cuts or corners here. They were really much going in a vein that felt similar to the comics, which I kind of really much am impressed by. Ends up being some twists and turns to what happens with the Firefly, and specifically in the way that it actually ties into Barbara Gordon's origin. Now, really much the whole entire thing that we kind of find out about this is he told me that Michael Keaton's only in the movie for like about 5 scenes, and Michael Keaton is awesome apparently in each and every one of those 5 scenes. He is giving it his all in the Batman costume, and a lot of people are probably wondering, well, how is Leslie Grace the title character of this film? And he let me know Leslie Grace is pretty damn good, and that's something that I was hoping to see was Leslie Grace in the role personally, because for me, Leslie Grace is a phenomenal actress. She was great in the Heights, and it's good to hear that she was doing a great job as Batgirl, and specifically in the way that her and Michael Keaton, at the very end, what happens is the ending of them just standing on this tower, having a conversation, and him giving her an powerful speech, which again probably ties into what would be going on next within the Bat family, which is disappointing to see because we probably will never see that now. So all of you guys wondering about Nightwing and Robin, that's not happening, because we all saw that graffiti art that was on set. We're never going to get our answer to that, are we? Yes, I forgot to mention this. J.K. Simmons is awesome as Commissioner Gordon in the movie, apparently as well. At the end of the day, what do I want to see come out of this? There's a couple things. I think there's some pros and there's cons. The worst con to this is my heart goes out to the entire cast, the crew, everyone involved in this movie that was trying to get it made. And the fact that, you know, when a movie starts filming, this just goes to remind us, when we haven't seen a trailer, I think that just goes as far to say this movie actually isn't happening yet. And apparently there are conversations about going on about what they are going to do with The Flash now. This is going to be interesting, so make sure to follow for more and hit that like and subscribe button so you guys are up to date on what might be happening with The Flash movie as more details start to come out about that. But specifically talking about this movie, I think there are a lot of interesting details, and in particular, moments that I wanted to see. I still want to see this movie. Do I think we will actually see it? Yes. That's why I didn't go too far into detail on every little thing about the plot in itself. I'm sure there will be other people on Twitter already leaking out what exactly happens throughout the movie, but that is not up for me to say. We're talking about certain plot points that very much are hinted at, and specifically if you know the comic book origins, you can put 2 and 2 together, but when looking at this entire movie, I feel what needs to happen, and I really hope this is what's going on now, is that they're reassessing what is going on behind the scenes at Warner Brothers, specifically with the DC universe. Now, we know that Ben Affleck is going to be appearing in Aquaman 2, for the reasons being, most likely Michael Keaton was supposed to have a cameo in there. These are the reports, and now that Ben Affleck is coming back in because it just made no sense since Michael Keaton has not shown up yet in The Flash. And I feel like this was kind of the same thing. They didn't know when to push Batgirl. Batgirl apparently only got middling to just okay reactions to it, but there were some good things in there, and I feel like this is where reshoots would have came in, but Warner Brothers did not want to provide the money for them to go back and reshoot the film, which is just where they came down to, let's just scrap the entire thing. Everyone I've talked to, though, has compared this very much to New Mutants, which was pushed back multiple times. They all say it is way better than New Mutants, and New Mutants, if anything were to happen, New Mutants should not have been released. Specifically about this movie, I actually do think that there is a chance that Ben Affleck will now come back as the main integral Batman for this entire world. Not saying it's completely 100% going to happen, but I could totally see it happening. I also would not be surprised if the money that they were supposed to use for reshoots on this movie actually gets allocated over to The Flash to now maybe do some reshoots for there, whether to end the whole Keaton becoming the main timeline Batman, or maybe even tying in certain things to maybe recast Ezra Miller. These are things that we'll probably find out in the next coming weeks to months, but these are all elements that I think could happen. But the other thing I do want to emphasize is that I really hope that Leslie Grace still becomes the Batgirl in this world, because I think she and Ben Affleck would absolutely have phenomenal chemistry, and honestly anyone that she's paired with. She is an amazing actress, and I cannot emphasize that enough, and my heart goes out to her because she deserved this role. But in the end of the day, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with this? Do you think Warner Brothers should have scrapped this overall after telling you guys some of the reactions that my friend had said? Or even do you think that we should have gotten this movie? I at least think that they should have released it in theaters or even on streaming at this point, because what would it have hurt? I still think this movie would have been a little bit big, and you could have said it's a multiverse movie, but to be honest, I think when it comes down to their plans in the end of the day of what they're trying to decide, is it possible? Is it feasible to do this movie and make it work in this whole entire universe that they're trying to concur and bring to life? And I think that's the reason that this movie got canceled, is because they're looking what's going to make us more money in the future. This Batgirl film or an actual universe put together that we are trying to create right now. And I think they're going more with the universe route. But again, let's hear your guys' thoughts down below. Thank you so much again for watching this. And of course, until next time, stay classy.